Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mystery Mondays. I'm sorry I'm doing this so late. I've been really tired today, but anyway, I am going to try to cover these in the order that I listed them in the thing, though there will be some mention of Brian Laundrie at earlier times in my talk about other people. But I wanted to start out with a missing persons case that is close to my home, which is that of Aubrey Dameron. Aubrey is a transgender Indigenous woman. She was in the transition of transitioning from male to female at the time that she went missing. And her aunt and uncle are the ones that are most instrumental in trying to find her. I will explain some as to why that is here in a little bit and some of their thoughts on her case. There is a Facebook page, which I was planning to link in my comments before I started this because I now know that I'm able to do that and I forgot to do that. But I will make sure to link it in my comments. I'm trying not to be too loud because it is 9 p.m. One of my sons is sleeping and some of my neighbors might be trying to sleep. As I mentioned before, I live in a quadplex. So I will first be talking about Miss Aubrey Dameron, and then I will talk about I think I did them in the wrong order. Anyway, I'll then be talking about the body that was found in North Carolina and if there are any updates on it. Then I will talk about updates to Gabby's case and information about Brian, though I was kind of planning to try and separate the two of those. But there will be mention of him in some of the other stuff, as I have already said as well. I'm sorry, I wrote some notes up at the top. Anyway, so what I have here is information concerning Aubrey's case, of course, which happened in Delaware County, Oklahoma, near the town of Grove, Oklahoma, which is near Grand Lake, and I believe her family home was very close to the lake, if I recall correctly. And her case, because of there was a case that the Indian nations did in Oklahoma to make it where they would handle some of the cases instead of the state people and the sheriff's departments and local police and stuff like that. So for that reason, now her case is being handled by the FBI in conjunction with the Cherokee Nation, because the area where she went missing is part of the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. And she left home, I'm sorry, I am reading the wrong spot. That's why I'm so lost already. Okay, so Aubrey was last seen, she's believed to have last been seen on March 9, 2019. She's been missing for a little over 2.5 years now. Around 3:33 a.m. on the outskirts of Grove, Oklahoma, near Grand Lake, at the home that she was living in with her mother, brother, and her stepfather. She was last seen wearing all black, which included a leather jacket, a blouse, a skirt, black pantyhose, and black boots. And most of the information that I have this time, I do follow the Missing Aubrey Dameron Grove, Oklahoma Facebook page. But most of the information that I have that I'm going to share with you tonight is from NBC News, a Dateline story that they did concerning Aubrey. And that story was on September 6th, 2021. Her aunt and uncle are trying to keep her memory alive as well as her case alive, and are hoping that she will be found alive, but they doubt that she will be, partly because she is transgender and they fear that she was the victim of a hate crime. And because she's an Indigenous transgender woman at that. Now, when she was last seen, she was 25 years old, so that would make her 27 or 28 now. And I've already mentioned she was last seen in Grove, Oklahoma, near Grand Lake, which is part of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. And here is a quote from the actual article that I read. It says, Aubrey Dameron was a voice for those who weren't always heard. She opened her home to those who needed shelter. She stood up for those who were bullied and forgave those who spewed words of hate toward her because of who she was. But in March 2019, her voice went silent. And I believe that is a quote from her aunt. I could be mistaken, but I believe that that was what her aunt told the people on Dateline. And at the time of her disappearance, she lived on the outskirts of Grove, Oklahoma, in her family's home, where she had returned the previous summer, is what most of the stories I saw said. I did see one that said that she returned in late 2019 after having had surgery, and I was like, well, the summer's not late 2019, not even if it's like August, which I guess fall doesn't start until September, so I guess possibly she returned in September. I don't know for sure. At one point I did know, because as I said, I've been following her page since like shortly after she went missing. Well, not real shortly, but I think like May, Memorial Day weekend of 2019, I think is when I started following it. And other people, as I said, who were living in the home with her included her mother, her brother, and her stepfather. Now, her brother, from what I understand, was quite a bit younger than her. She had a few siblings, and apparently she was closer to the age of her uncle than to the age of her younger siblings. So I guess perhaps her stepfather is their dad, not her dad, maybe. And as I said, the ones that are being the spokespeople for the family and have rallied to find their niece is her aunt Pam Smith and her uncle Christian Fencer. Her and Fencer were really, really close before she went missing, and they were like in daily contact with each other up until a few months before she went missing, from what I understand. And then instead of her contacting him every day, she started just contacting him every few weeks. And from what I read on the Facebook page years ago, she partly had returned, like she had moved to New Mexico, and she partly had returned to her family home in Oklahoma because she had become a drug addict and she was trying to stop using drugs, and she felt that she could do it better with her family's support. So that was my understanding, that that was why she had moved, part of anyway, why she had moved home. And, oh yes, okay. So her aunt and uncle are siblings of Aubrey's mother, who she was living with. Aubrey's mother's name is Jen Bird. The story that Jen initially told about Aubrey disappearing was that Jen awoke around 3:30 in the morning on March 9, 2019, and saw Aubrey leaving the home. At that time, Aubrey told her family members, including her brother, who was in the living room, that she was meeting a friend. Now, I made some notes on that there are some differing stories that they have told authorities and other family members and such as that. Though they didn't initially, like when the aunt and uncle found out that she was missing, she had already been missing a couple of weeks. And the way that her aunt and uncle found out she was missing was because a friend, like they had already made the Facebook page, from what I understand, or maybe not. You know, the missing persons report had been made, and one of the friends of Pam Smith contacted her and asked her if Aubrey was missing, and she's like, not that I know of. So she called Aubrey's mother and asked her, and she told her that she was, and told her if she wanted more information on the case, she would have to call the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, which to me is just like, yeah, okay, I'm sure the sheriff's office told you to tell people to contact them, but I'm pretty sure they weren't talking about your family when they said that, you know. It's like newspapers and stuff like that. I probably just woke my son up, but oh well. Anyway, he's been sleeping quite a while. I didn't say, oh well, I know he needs to sleep. He works hard. Anyway, lost track of where I was. So yes. So after she failed to return home, her family, I believe it was her mother, reported her missing. Now, they didn't report her missing until March the 11th, and she had left the morning of March 9th. And I understand, you don't want to jump the gun and report someone missing, but the reason they reported her missing at the time that they did was because she had not returned home and she was not answering her cell phone, which is what I jumped ahead to this spot by accident a while ago. But she had left her purse at the home along with medicine that she required to be healthy. I don't know if it was medicine involving her transition or the surgery that she had had, and I'm not sure what type of surgery it was that she had had. But that put her life at risk, her not having her medication with her. And I believe that it was later found that she had also left her cell phone at the house. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that that was the case. And as I already stated, at the time that she went missing, she was transitioning to a female. Her aunt and uncle feared she was the victim of a hate crime when she, partly because when she told friends and family that she wanted to transition while she was in high school, she was given a hard time. And she, as I said, had surgery when she was in New Mexico the summer before she had this. The summer before she had surgery when she was in New Mexico the summer that she did return home. And her nickname is Shorty, which she has tattooed on her upper left arm. Her family feels like authorities in Delaware County didn't take her disappearance seriously or support them in trying to locate her. Now, part of this is because they were like, she's a drug addict and she leads a wild life. And so she's just run off and gone to party somewhere or something. But she was trying to stop using drugs, was part of why she went home. It has, as I said, now been more than 2.5 years since she went missing. Several searches were conducted with the help from the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women United States Association. There was one on March 23rd in 2019 where a team searched near the family home. And they found what appeared to be a bloody sock approximately a half mile from the house. They sent the sock to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, but the family never received conclusive results. They were told that the results were inconclusive. And I believe that her mother was the one that provided some of her DNA, like I think a hairbrush and toothbrush or something, to them. And I was reading earlier that the aunt had said that she suspects that perhaps it was not actually Aubrey's brush and toothbrush that the mother gave them. She has suspected that perhaps the mom, brother, and stepfather did something to Aubrey and know exactly what happened because they, like Brian Laundrie's family, have not said very much to authorities. They have their stories that change back and forth and are inconsistent with each other about what happened when she left even. But I mean, it was 3:30-ish in the morning, so it's possible that not even all of them were awake, and maybe some of them that were awake weren't fully awake, if you know what I'm saying. And I meant to look up what day of the week March 9th, 2019 was. I believe it was a Saturday, but I could be wrong about that. The Delaware County authorities told Dateline that Aubrey's case is being handled by the FBI now. As I stated earlier, another story that I read said that that's because of the case where the Indians were wanting themselves to be able to handle certain crimes that occurred with on the land in their reservations, and that was where her death, or her, not necessarily her death, but that's where her case occurred. That's where she went missing, was in the Cherokee Nation. So her family created a Facebook page, which is Missing-Aubrey Dameron from Grove, Oklahoma, to help find Aubrey. Now, according to the poster that was on this story, it said that Aubrey is, or maybe it was the information in the story, anyway, it said Aubrey is 5'10", and weighs about 150 pounds. But there was another story that I saw that said that she is about 5'9", which is still close to 5'10", weighs about 130 pounds. I'm like, that's 20 pounds difference. That's quite a bit of difference right there. But yeah, and she does have brown eyes and brown hair, though in a lot of her pictures, her hair appears to be black, so it may be really dark brown. And she does have 2 tattoos. As I mentioned, she has the word Shorty on her upper left arm, and she also has a triquetra symbol on her back. And there are pictures of her all over the internet, in addition to there being this Facebook page. And there's like a picture of a triquetra thingy. And I was thinking somewhere that there was actually a picture of her wearing a spaghetti strap top where you could see the tattoo that is on her back. But I could be wrong about that because I couldn't find that when I was looking yesterday. And her DNA is on file with databases for the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, the National Crime Information Center, and the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, as all of her information is also entered into their databases. And as I said, when you search her name, a lot of photos and missing posters about her come up. They come up first, and then there's several links to stories about her case and her being missing, and the Facebook page that was made to try and help find her. And I just have a little bit more here on her. This concerns what I was saying earlier about authorities saying that she was known to party and a drug abuser, and that was why they did not think that maybe that something had happened to her, that she had gone missing. And I wish that I had made a note on it. I should have. The story that I was reading that had this other height and weight in it said that when they were doing searches, the Delaware County Sheriff's Office received a tip about a shallow grave that had a black leather jacket near it. And they went there and exhumed remains. And this was, I believe, in June. I think it was. No, this was Memorial Day weekend, actually. I think Memorial Day weekend of 2019. So she would have been missing for about 2.5, almost 3 months at the time. And anyway, they went there and exhumed remains. And I'm sure they tested the DNA, but the family was told that the DNA of those remains was inconclusive with Aubrey's DNA, which was when the aunt was like, well, they could have given them anyone's DNA. It could have been the stepdad's DNA. He's not even related to her, which I'm sure, she brought that suspicion up, and FBI has their way of getting like when they went to Brian Laundrie's parents' house, they didn't go there and be like, give us something that has Brian's DNA on it. They asked to go into the home and retrieve items that may contain his DNA. So that's, different. But what the other notes I made from that story are that Dameron's mother, brother, and stepfather told various versions of what happened the night she was supposedly last seen, causing some people to think that they may have done something to Aubrey. And one of the stories was that instead of the brother being sitting on the couch in the living room and her telling the mom that she was going to meet someone, that the mom was asleep and saw Aubrey leaving, but stayed in her room. The brother was sitting in the living room. Aubrey went out the door. He followed her out and asked where she was going, and she said, I'm going to meet someone. And I don't know that in any of these scenarios that the stepfather was even mentioned as having been home at the time or having been around. Hi, Izzy. I'm doing a video. You want to go in the other room? She says yes. By your eye. Okay, anyway, hang on. I will be right back. Sorry, folks. Oh, stuff all over me. Anyway, hopefully he's not trying to go back to sleep. Okay, but so anyway, the other thing I wrote in the border here is that for years she had been in regular contact with her uncle, as I mentioned, but began only contacting him every few weeks. And for that reason, her aunt and uncle, Cam Smith and Christian Fencer, suspect that she may have been missing for longer than the stories that her family are telling lead to believe, or that perhaps her family was holding her captive or something. Like I said, she was trying to quit doing drugs. And so maybe she had met up with some people that she knew that did drugs, or they found out that she had done drugs. And so they locked her in her room, perhaps, or something, to try to prevent her from doing them. And she didn't have access to her phone all the time, perhaps. That was one of the things that they had suspected at one point, was that something along that line had happened prior to her going missing, which led them to believe that maybe something happened that night and got out of control and caused someone to end up hurting her, and that was what really happened. And her last Facebook post was made on February the 25th of 2019, which February only has 28 days unless it's a leap year, and I can't recall if 2019 was a leap year or not, but that would have been about 13 days before she was reported missing. But as I have said before, sometimes I don't go on Facebook for a long time. If this dog is out of my room for a while, I'm going to close the door. Sorry. So that I'm not too loud, because I don't know if I was trying to sleep. I'm getting to see the back of my chair a lot more than you are me, and here comes one of the dogs running back in the room, but they'll just have to wait because I'm doing this. And I'm not getting up again. Sorry, folks. I don't know if anyone's watching right now, but okay, so the next thing that I'm sorry. The post that Aubrey Dameron made on February 25th, 2019, and I can't believe that I almost forgot to mention that. It was a very friendly post, and it was like a sign. I'm kind of thinking it was a sign that she had painted that said, "You're never too important to be nice to people," which leads to the impression that perhaps she was being bullied by some people. I know there was a woman that was supposed to have been her friend who had been on Facebook making very, very, very rude comments, rude meaning hateful comments on Facebook. And at one point she had told her family that she knew exactly where she was being held. And I don't know if she tried to get money from the family in return for telling them where she was being held or what, but that woman was arrested on extortion charges after she had told them that. I do know that. And I'm like, dude, you're obviously not her friend. I don't know why she would have anything to do with you, but obviously she was a real kind, caring, loving person. And unfortunately, those are the kinds that get taken advantage of the most and end up getting hurt a lot of the time. So now I'm going to talk about updates to the Crystal Turner and Kylen Schulte case, which of course there aren't very many updates on that case. The information I have now, once again, is information from the private investigator that is looking into the case pro bono for Kylen Schulte's father. And I kind of feel like this name is different than the name that I saw the first time, but this guy's name is Jason Jensen. And he said that this case is challenging. It's challenging in part because it is unknown where Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie were between August the 13th and August 15th. So they have no way of knowing if perhaps maybe what happened to Gabby is connected to what happened to them, or maybe even Brian is connected to what happened to them. Surely not Brian and Gabby both connected to what happened to them. That would be horrendous. And they have narrowed when, like, between the 13th and the 15th of August is when it is believed that Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner were killed. So that's why they're like, until we know for a fact where Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito were between August 13th and 15th, this private investigator flat says he can't be ruled out as a person of interest in this case as well as Gabby's case, because he may have been in that area. I'm going to be repeating myself quite a bit because I am tired and not feeling severely well. Sorry, people. So, of course, the private investigator is also focusing on the creepy dude who caused Kylen and Crystal to move their campsite. The private investigator said that from what people have told him, it would have taken a lot for them to call him a creepy guy. He said something along the lines of I'm not going to think what the word is. Anyway, they weren't debutantes. They weren't fancy, snazzy people who thought they were better than other people and above other people, or that other people were beneath them. So them calling this guy a creepy guy, he really had to be a creepy guy or had to be doing something that was really creeping them out. And as I stated when I did my last video, I am almost certain that the day that this guy started camping near them on August 11th, and I know there's a lot of people that camp in these areas, and I'm pretty sure that that's the date that Gabby and Brian arrived in Utah. But I think I saw something on his Instagram page that said that was when they got to that park, but it doesn't mean that they were camping in that area. And the fact that they were just saying there was a creepy guy, they're not like, there's a creepy guy with some woman, leads me to think that maybe it was just a creepy guy. But this private investigator believes that the creepy guy is most likely the person that is responsible, because it's not like there was anything else that was creeping them out. But that made me think of something earlier that I will talk about here in just a minute. I personally, if I were camping somewhere, especially, I had a wife and I was camping somewhere and there was a guy camping nearby that was creeping me out, first thing I'd do, dude, I'll pull this sucker out and I'm snapping me a picture of this dude. And then I'm like, hey, this dude's being really creepy and freaking us out. And I might even share it with the park rangers, not just my family and friends, so that, like, if something does happen, they don't just know that there was a creepy guy hanging around. They know exactly what he looked like, But anyway, that's, I'm like, I wonder why neither of them snapped a picture of him, especially since one of them, I believe it was Kylen, literally told their friends when they hung out with them the night they had gone to the bar. They went to to some friend's house, and hung out with them, or went to hang out with some friends at a friend's house after they had left the bar. And I believe that's where it was that she told them, if anything happens to us, it will have been the creepy dude. And I'm going, like, the private investigator, I hadn't really thought about it, but the private investigator brought up that they had not described him to others, except for saying that he was a creepy dude. If there's something like this going on, document it. Write down what he looks like, how tall you think he is, what race you think he is, color his hair is. Is he dark complected, light complected? Does he have a beard, mustache? Stuff like that. Maybe even write down what he's wearing. Does he have a dog? Does he have a cat? Does he have an iguana with him? Facts that could possibly be used to trace this person down if something actually does end up happening to you, And so that was what got me to thinking. I was thinking about her telling one of their friends with the other, well, they told their friends at the one friend's house, if something if anything should happen to us, it'll be because of this creepy guy. And I'm like, well, now, but wait. If one of these friends, for some reason, had a grudge against them, um, wanted to get rid of them for whatever reason, like say the person was unemployed, wanting a job at the Moonflower Co-op, which is where Kylen Schulte worked, the store that Brian and Gabby had their domestic altercation in front of. Maybe one of their friends killed them because they had told everyone that it would be the creepy dude if something ended up happening to them, you know? I should hope not, but that's a possibility in my eyes. Because sometimes friends get really vengeful and hateful over the stupidest crap. Maybe something happened at the bar when they were there and one of them flirted with someone else's person, or who knows, you know? And this person maybe was like, oh, well, they'll just think it was the creepy dude. So this is my opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully not the woman that went and looked and found them. Hopefully she was not involved in that. But I mean, that just, that made me wonder. And okay, I'm sorry. So creepy dude made them cause them to move camps. Trying to find where I was at, because part of this I did not have written in my notes or abbreviated or anything. That might be about all that I had to say on that, actually. They didn't describe him to others except for saying he was a creepy dude. Yes, that was it. The private investigator did say that several tips have come in, largely thanks to the work that Kylen Schulte's father is doing in trying to figure out who is responsible for this. There have been several tips that have came in that have led to possible people of interest, including Brian Laundrie, which leads me to believe that they probably were in the area at the time. Or it could be as simple as, well, there was that dude that got into that domestic dispute with his girlfriend. I wouldn't put it past him to have done this, something along that line. So, as I said earlier, basically, if Brian was in the area of the LaSalle Mountain Road, I believe it was called, in Moab, Utah, at the time, like if he was near where Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner were murdered at the time that happened, not if he was near them, but like just if he was still in the Moab, Utah area, then basically he may have done it. So he has to be on the suspect list, right? And so the next thing I wanted to talk about was the body that was found in North Carolina along the Appalachian Trail, which leads me to another story. But the body that was found along the Appalachian Trail, I was hoping to find an update on and see if maybe they had identified that person, whom, as I said before, it's a man's body. A lot of people were like, yay, it's Brian Laundrie. But the FBI has his DNA. Surely by now they have got the body from the area where it was located at and tested the DNA, and so obviously it's not Brian Laundrie, right? Unless they're just not releasing that information to us. So I was not able to find any new information on that at this time, but I'm sure you all have seen this story. There was a man who was hiking the Appalachian Trail, been hiking it from Georgia to Virginia since the middle of September, which is around the time that Brian Laundrie did go missing from his parents' home. But this man was hiking along the Appalachian Trail with a woman companion, and they had eaten lunch and went to take a nap, and they were staying at some type of lodge. I'm not sure if it was a hotel or cabin or exactly what it was, but they had eaten lunch and laid down for a nap. And he said that someone said something and jarred him to being awake, and he woke up to like U.S. Marshals in riot gear with guns pointed at him, and the guy looks a whole lot like Brian Laundrie. He was advised by the Marshals to shave his beard, which he did, and they said he immediately regretted because he says he doesn't have as much of a chin as Brian Laundrie does. I'm like, okay, whatever that means. But anyway, guess he thinks Brian Laundrie's better looking than him. I don't know. But so yeah. So, there are a lot of people out there, like there was a guy previously that people had seen with a woman that they thought was Brian Laundrie, and people were accosting him and be like, why'd you kill Gabby? Why'd you kill Gabby? And stuff like that, and which makes me think, how are these people that are harassing his sister and his parents not getting arrested? They think that his parents and his sister are such bad people because they may know more than they've told the FBI or the Northport police or whatever, or they may know exactly where he is or whatever. They're not calling the cops on y'all and telling the cops that y'all are harassing them, charging y'all with harassing them, which they have the legal right to do, They're not doing that because they know why you guys are doing what you're doing. Anyway, so this story about the guy, though, on the Appalachian Trail that the marshals bust in on with the right gear and guns and everything, got me thinking how scary it must be for guys that do resemble Brian Laundrie in their appearance. And this guy had been out on the trail and such, so I don't know if he had been watching TV or anything or knew that this hunt was going on for Brian Laundrie. But if you resemble Brian Laundrie, please shave and talk. Like, his voice is not real distinct. Apparently when he gets excited, he talks real fast. When he thinks he might be in the least little bit of trouble, he apologizes a lot. So I'm like, talk. People will know maybe that you're not him, right? That the guy felt that maybe someone at the place where they were staying had taken his picture and sent it to the marshals and been like, hey, Brian Laundrie's here, Obviously somebody had given them some tips, telling them that he was staying at that place. And I looked for updates on Gabby. And as to her case, of course, there is nothing new at this time. There most likely won't be anything new until Brian has been found and taken into custody. Hopefully he will be found alive and, will be answering what exactly happened and telling his story of what happened, be it precise or not. But there was information all over the internet, on Facebook and such, Instagram and all of that, that her family, I think I might have mentioned before, started a organization in her name that I could not remember what was even for or whatever, but they held a fundraiser yesterday on Sunday to raise money for the foundation they're trying to start to honor Gabby. And the foundation will help those, and this is what it said on the Instagram deal that is one in honor of Gabby. It said that the foundation will help those in domestic abuse situations and help with locating missing people. Now, I'm not sure if that refers to all people that are in either situation or only women. There are men, unfortunately, who are abused by their female partners or gay men that are abused by their partners, and there are also several men who are missing. I can't recall which year it was, but a few years back, seems like it was probably around 2016, 2017. There was a young man that my kids used to know who had gone missing in Arizona, who unfortunately his remains were found. And I don't really know anything else on that, but it does happen. And so I want to talk briefly about Brian himself, which, as I said earlier, I had intended to not do so close to Gabby, but when I was making my notes, that ended up being right next to each other. I had actually planned to talk about the North Carolina body between these two. But anyway, so, of course, there have been no updates concerning Brian Laundrie either, that I know of. Like, if people are, I know people are calling with tips, and obviously this guy at the Appalachian Trail, got guns stuck in his face by U.S. Marshals and stuff. But if they're reporting stuff like that, it's not being publicized as much by the police and FBI, which leads me to think that maybe they are actually getting some good tips, and they're getting fairly close to finding him, because a lot of times it seems like if that's the case, they stop releasing the information to the public because they don't want the public getting in the way and ending up accidentally getting hurt. So a note that I made is that, like, if he is still in this country, he must be running low on supplies, on food and such, right? He can get water pretty much anywhere, especially in a national park. I'm sure he would know where to get that resource, especially if there are caves. The FBI says that he's not hiding in a cave. He might be. I wouldn't put it past him. It's a good place to hide. So, like, why not, And it says, but I was like, thinking his best sources of protein might require him to start building fires soon, which might end up getting him caught because he's been out there for a month and 5 days today. And, or is it I think it's a month and 5 days today. And so I was like, he could possibly catch fish and make sushi, but if he doesn't do it right, they could make him really ill. And there's also the possibility that if he does do it right, it could still make him ill, depending on what the fish have eaten and what they've been exposed to. But there, of course, are several types of nuts in this country. I know that there are several pine trees in the Florida-Georgia area, and you can roast pine nuts and eat those. I don't know if you would want to eat them raw. And I looked up, and there are also black walnut trees in the Georgia and Florida area, assuming he is still in that area, and 5 different types of hickory nuts. Now, I don't know how many of these are edible, but there are 5 different types of hickory nuts that he could possibly find and eat. There's the pig nut, the pecan, what is called a mocker nut, water hickory nut, that's right, and the bitter nut, which is the one that I always used to end up with whenever I would find them. Ooh, I think this might be a pecan. Nope, that's a bitter nut, hickory nut. But anyway, and I did discover that there may also be hazelnuts, especially if he's in the Georgia area, which I found to be interesting. And so, like, I was fascinated with the fact that the pecan is a type of hickory nut. I did not know that. I don't know how many times I've seen nuts and been like, that looks like it's a pecan, but I'm sure it's a hickory nut. And yeah, they're both basically the same thing. It just depends on which type of hickory nut it is that you come across. But for right now, that's the only information that I have. I have not decided who I want to do my Mystery Monday story on next week. If there's someone that you guys know of who is missing that you would like for me to bring some attention to their case or whatever, leave a comment and let me know what they're like. Just tell me their name and the area that they went missing from, and I can look it up and do some research on it. And just trying to draw the public's attention to some of these cases, such as the Aubrey Dameron case, which is close to where I live, not real close to where I live, but it's within this state. And I know that there are other people who are missing in this state. There are a lot of people missing in this state. This state is known, I found out after I moved here, to have human trafficking rings because there are so many interstate highways that run through here and intersects and such. So, which I think is interesting because there actually aren't that many truck stops in this area. And that is a place where a lot of that sort of stuff goes on, from what I hear. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording so I don't disturb anyone that I have not already disturbed making that video. And so I can let my dogs back in my room. So, Everyone have a good whatever time of night or day it is in your part of the world. Stay safe and stay positive. Please subscribe and share on social media, like if you want to, leave comments. Thank you all for viewing.